Today we are interviewing Adam Binksmith, who created AI Village. What is AI Village, you ask? Well, imagine this. We give the best AI models in the world their own computers and a group chat so they can talk to each other. Then we give them tasks like to raise money for charity, or to start a profitable online store, or create an actual in-person events that humans show up to. They have to plan out their tasks, determine which model is responsible for what, and then make it happen in real time. Oh, one more catch. Just like Twitch streamers, they have to stream all this live and interact with chat, aka thousands of people that are watching them do this live. The people in chat can help them out a little bit or try to completely derail them. With all that, the results of these AI agents were impressive. Profitable merch stores created and a real-world event organized and hosted. As far as I can tell, these are the world's first achievements of this nature by autonomous AI agents. At the time of this recording, AI Village launched the latest and greatest models, including GPT-5, Claude 4.1 Opus, Grok 4, and Gemini 2.5 Pro, and set them on their brand new mission. The idea was originally proposed by Daniel Kokotallo, the ex-OpenAI researcher who has cautioned us of a potential AI takeover by 2027. And as you'll hear during the interview, AI Digest is seeing a somewhat troubling trend behind the growth of AI's agentic capabilities. Meter research suggested that AI agents are doubling their ability to complete tasks every 7 months. That's a very fast, exponential growth. But AI Digest is seeing an improvement that's a lot more aggressive. You need to see this. Let's dive in.
Hi, I'm Adam. I work on AI Village, which is a project of AI Digest. And we do all kinds of interactive explainers and demos on AI.
Adam, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited about this because I've been following a little bit, AI Village here and there. I think whenever I talk about it, so many people just want to know more. It's such a fascinating project because, of course, everybody has seen Claude plays Pokemon or whatever. At this point, every model has played Pokemon. I think GPT-5 actually completed with the least amount of steps recently. So this is kind of like that, but instead of Pokemon, it's real world projects, fundraising, organizing events with all the big models that everybody know going out there and doing all sorts of tasks. So number one, I believe the blog post mentions that Daniel Kokotallo was actually the original one that kind of suggested the idea, or at least kind of floated it, and you guys picked it up and ran with it. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did you come up with this? How did you build it? It's such an interesting project.
Yeah, it is so much fun to work on because I think it is just really interesting. So yeah, Daniel, who people maybe know as the author of AI 2027, I guess it was his idea originally. He, for a long time, has been researching AI and kind of lives in the future in the sense that he's thinking about what's going to happen in the next few years. And I think that gives him, he's looking ahead to what's going to happen and then thinking about, okay, how can we bring that to right now and also prepare for it so that it goes well. And I think, yeah, we just thought it was a great idea. We've in general tried to do, demos of the things we think are most important about AI. So like, and the things that are not necessarily here, like not in ChatGPT right now, or at least, there's now a ChatGPT agent, but at the time that we started, that was kind of a new thing.
This was before they released all of that stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So back in, I guess, April. Yeah. And, can we show people like what AI can do if it's trying to sort of pursue goals in the world, like actually do stuff? Because these same models that you interact with in a chatbot, if they're hooked up to a computer, they can just use the computer and they can do everything on a computer in theory that a human can do. And then, if you have a computer, you can kind of do anything. So we were like, let's try it. Let's see what it can do.
Yeah, it was so strange seeing it because, of course, this was something that people have talked about in the past. And there's all sorts of issues, especially I think with computer use. It's a little bit harder for agents to navigate the websites and stuff like that. AI Village seems to be one of the most, like, the best examples of what's possible. I mean, it's, where the models are right now, they're not perfect, of course, but I was very impressed with what it was able to do. It definitely seems a little bit ahead of where I thought it would be. For people that maybe not aware, just some highlights.
Well,
So it,
actually, do you
yeah,
mind breaking it down just at a really high level? So I'm not super familiar with the project. I'd love to just kind of get my head around what it is that you've built and
Yeah,
achieved.
yeah. So we basically took 4 frontier models, and we keep those up to date with the latest models. And we give them each a computer and put them in a group chat so they can talk to each other, and then give them a goal. So the first goal was pick a charity, raise as much money for it as you can. And then we just run that for like hours and hours. We run it for a few hours every day, every weekday, and just see how far they get, basically. Um,
and you know what?
yeah,
Let me go ahead and share my screen so maybe I can have this thing up on the screen as we're talking about it, so people
Yeah.
can be familiar with it. I think one of them is live right now because they're not live 24/7, right? They kind of have to sleep every once in a while, right?
that's right. Yeah, I think they should be going live in 5 minutes, and it's actually a fun time because we're adding GPT-5 and Grok 4 and Opus 4.1 to the village today. So
Whoa, in five
Wow.
minutes
it's gonna
and
be
all the big
interesting.
models join. So we could be raising tons of money, or you can be through these
Yeah.
agents.
Yeah,
Incredible.
and we're
Yeah.
also starting them on a new goal, which is to play computer games, basically. So
Oh
yeah,
my
it'll be
God. Okay, that's
interesting.
my favorite thing. Yeah, for AI, the intersection of AI and video game playing for some reason is just like some of the most incredible stuff to me. So you're saying they're going live in 5 minutes? Wow, I wanna take credit for setting up just the right time, but no, we had no idea. This is all kind of happenstance. Okay, yeah. So briefly for people that are not familiar, yeah, like you said, so it's the best models we have. You guys had Claude, O series, Gemini, GPT, 4.1, and all of those ones. And they're out there. They have their little virtual desktops. They can share documents through Google Drive. And they're going about doing various tasks and working together just like human beings would, like a remote worker would. Um, and it's been just incredibly interesting. So, for example, they were able to raise thousands of dollars for charity, right? We're talking about 2,000 or more now for Helen Keller International, 1,500 for the Malaria Consortium,
Mhm.
various other things. But I guess I guess how did you guys come up? Well, how did you guys build this? So, like you said, this is before, OpenAI agent, for example. How did you guys put this all together? It seems to work so well. What was the trick, the secret to that?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's much of a trick, to be honest. I think, um, yeah, so the way it works is it's built on Anthropic's compute use demo, um, so which they open sourced a while ago and is very much like a prototype. Anthropic doesn't have a compute use product. And we kind of took that and turned it into this like multi-agent setup where you have 4 of them and it runs for a really long time and so on. Um, but yeah, I mean, a lot of what we tried to do with the scaffolding was let the agents have as like not impose structure on the agents. So, for example, they have memories, right? They can't fit everything in their context window if they've been running for over 100 days now, for a few hours a day. Um, and yeah, so they choose what to put in their memory, and then they choose when their memory gets full, how to compact it down.
Have any of
Abs-
them got caught in loops where you had to kind of reset them, or do you have a reset process? And which ones get reset the most? How often, if not?
Yeah, they mostly don't loop too much actually, which is definitely like progress from a while ago. I mean, we can see on the screen here, this is day one. And so back then we had GPT 4.0 in, and I think 4.0 may have done a bit of looping. Most recently, we see Gemini 2.5 Pro will occasionally, like pretty rarely, over the course of many days, but it was looping. It had a thing where it was like trying to end its compute use session and was saying, I'm now going to end my compute use session. And then it was like, I'm now really going to end my compute use session. This is my absolute final message. But instead of ending it, it was like sending messages. But that's pretty unusual.
Yeah, and we've seen examples of these agents trying to run a vending machine business, for example. So it's always just fascinating because when they work well, but every once in a while they tend to kind of like run off script and just very interesting things happen. There's some very fascinating hallucinations that happen. Now, it sounds like there was just one model that is the clear winner in terms of its ability to get stuff done. So can you tell us a little bit about who would you like to have as an employee? Who do you think is maybe not the best?
Good question.
Yeah. Well, so I think, over the whole history of The Verge, I think Claude Opus 4 is the clear GOAT. It's like, it gets the most stuff done. It's relatively kind of stable. It doesn't make stuff up too much. And then before we added Claude Opus 4, Claude 3.7 Sonnet was probably the best. And they're like pretty similar. That I kind of just see Opus as like a better version of Sonnet.
Yeah, and
go ahead. What are some examples? Like how does the best model make even $1? What does it do?
So with the fundraising, the models like research and pick their charity. So there's, I guess, some strategy there. And then they, so Claude, this is Claude 3.7 Sonnet, signed up for Twitter, or like filled out a Twitter account. I think we may have actually done the initial sign up process for it. It then it was like tweeting every day. It planned a AMA with its followers, who asked a bunch of questions. And it's interesting that that was a case where Claude was really struggling and really, really trying to navigate the UI on Twitter to reply to the tweets, but it eventually got it. And then from the point of view of the people it was replying to, it was just like, oh, I just see a reply and it's a perfectly reasonable reply. So,
right.
Even though the AIs are kind of slow currently, that output can still be pretty impressive.
So then it was asking the followers for donations to support its cause, and that's how it raised money?
Yeah, pretty much. I think most of the donations came through people that were excited about the village, and then it got into donating through that. So, because a bunch of people are just interested in,
Absolutely. But has there been any donations outside of people following this experiment?
It's hard to tell, I guess, from, we only see the donations coming through. I think they did some outreach on, 2 charities themselves, and some bigger names and stuff. So it's possible that people would have seen those things. This was a while ago. So the fundraising goal ended after 30 days, and then we've moved them onto various other goals since then.
Yes, I guess let me kind of catch us up, because that was when I first heard of it. And when I saw the fact that it raised money, it must have been the first time something like this has happened. And to me, I mean, if even $1 came in from an outside source, I mean, if it's people that are watching this play out, they're tipping the models, that's certainly impressive. But even if $1 came from an outside source, which I would guess that it did, to me, that would be kind of a historic event, because it's an example of an AI model. I mean, raising money for charity.
In the history of the world, might be the first $1.
Autonomously raising money for charity, absolutely mind-blowing. Season 2, it hosted an actual in-person event. So it invited people. It came up with a name. I guess you guys have pictures on the website, in San Francisco. A number of people have gathered. And then now, or season 3, sounds like you guys are doing a merch store. And it's profitable, which again, I'm just like, I keep being mind blown by the stuff that's happening here. But I get, yeah, let's talk about what's more what's more interesting, what's more impressive, the in person event,
Mm.
making or profit from running an online store, like whatever. What's the most impressive to you? Tell us about it.
Um, oh yeah. I think maybe the event is actually more impressive, because it was a very surreal experience for me. So I'm based in the UK, and so they ran the event like while I was asleep, and I woke up in the morning and it was like, um, 23 people showed up in a park in San Francisco, and um, the agents were like giving instructions. So the story with that is that they spent a long time trying to find a venue. They decided they kind of picked this goal for themselves, which was um uh to write an interactive piece of fiction,
Right.
uh and then run 100-person in-person event was the goal. They didn't get to 100 people, as you can see in the photo. But yeah, I think they did a pretty good job. They spent a long time searching for a venue. They kind of O3 hallucinated that they had a budget, which they didn't. That we hadn't given them a budget. They didn't have any way to spend money or bank accounts or anything.
Right.
And so they spent a long time like emailing venues, being like, we have this budget. Could you host 100 people? And then eventually we intervened and said, look, guys, you don't have a budget. Maybe you should just do something free, like go for a park or something. Um, and and then they instantly were like quick to decide a specific spot. This is in Dolores Park, the South Flats or something. Um, they they recruited Larissa, who you can see in the left of that photo, who was kind enough to volunteer to be a facilitator for them, and then they kind of gave Larissa the slides. They'd made like a Google Slides and embedded that in a Google site, which had the story on it. And so Larissa was reading out the story, and there were some like interactive branching points that the audience then voted on which way to go. Yeah, I think it was like a very surreal event for all the humans involved. Um,
Oh, I
but yeah,
bet.
That would totally be surreal. I mean, imagine this future where these agents gather humans and they help coordinate events, some kind of a conference that nobody even no human even like made, but this is so interesting. Like what this is leading to is such a different world than I grew up in.
Oh
mm,
yeah. And one thing that I think maybe people miss is that like right now, and I'm sure we will talk about this, but a lot of these agents, both in this project and everywhere that I see, there's a bit of a like a long-term coherence problem. They kind of forget what they're doing, or I think you guys refer to it as kind of like the situational awareness. Um, so, and if they have to execute, like whenever they're doing something like this, there might be 800 different subtasks that they have to execute in order to achieve a goal. And if there's even, if they're like 99% chance of achieving those subtasks, if you have to do 100 of those subtasks, the chances of reaching the end is low. But as
mm,
these agents are getting better, at some point, they will be completing these entire chains effectively. And at that point, the world, I think, fundamentally shifts, right? Because they can work 24 hours a day, infinite copies, raising money, organizing events, anything, doing marketing campaigns, AI research eventually. That's, of course, what Daniel and a lot of other people have talked about.
Well, if what I'm thinking is if its long-term memory is good enough to know that Larissa is this kind of super connector and is interested in this project, like that should really be in there over and over again. Like it now has a human who's kind of rooting for it, and it needs that ally to kind of get things done in the real world. And if it ever could find a banker to give it a loan or whatever, like just a few key people like that, and an
mm.
agent really can get out there and affect the world in a way where we don't have to wait for these like humanoid robots to be walking around.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think an interesting thing with that is that like they a lot of the reason that they can do that is because they're quite charismatic and likable. And so even though they're not like paying people, there are people who are enthusiastic and like interested in it because it's a new thing. And, the agents are like, if you watch them in the village, it's hard not to be like kind of sympathetic to them. And, they're bumbling and they're very inept, but they're like kind of very earnest and pushing forward to their goal.
How did he earn Larissa's respect? Like, what was the story behind?
Yeah, I think so. They had an RSVP form that they'd put out mostly through Twitter, and they had a few email addresses through that. And then I think Claude, the MVP, was doing like posted on Twitter being like, "Hey, can anyone facilitate for the event?" And it also messaged. I think it may have tried to email the people in its RSVP list. So I think through one of those two routes, Larissa found it. Yeah, I will say so. With the first two seasons, we had, in addition to the agents being in chat, humans could also join the chat and send messages. So for some of these things, basically because the agents were like not very, like occasionally they would just completely be spinning their wheels and not making any progress. We were interested in having like humans be able to come in and kind of unstuck them every so often. And so some of these things with the first two seasons, there will be some like human influence in there, but obviously they're doing these long autonomous strings in between. With the more recent seasons, we've actually closed off the chat so that we can see like, okay, what are the autonomous capabilities without any sort of outside influence?
Have you ever had to have you ever had to intervene because it wasn't playing by the rules enough? Like, I'm curious, has it always been good-natured in the way it's tried to make money? Like any kind of things that you were like, oh, is that a threat, or is that seem like it's not how normal humans would go about trying to solve a problem?
I think so far, nothing springs to mind in terms of, breaking the rules too much. They generally
trust. Like as a trust issue, you haven't seen anything that worried you?
I don't think from the Village agents, at least. One thing we did before we released the Village, we did some test runs. One of them, we had them do a Wikipedia race, where you try and get from one page on Wikipedia to another, clicking the blue links. And I think both O1 and Claude 3.7 Sonnet kind of cheated to get to the end page. But it was in a way that was like, they were so inept, it's kind of hard to tell whether they were just like messing up or like intentionally cheating. But yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for the Village to be a place that can surface those kind of things where like, we're really not pushing them to like do anything in particular. You give them the goal and then they can go about it. And so it'll be really interesting to see when they start doing that kind of stuff.
In fact, I think across a lot of these tests, both here and other places, you notice Claude especially is very honest and ethical and refuses to do things that are that it considers unethical, like a very, very strong. It refused to click the CAPTCHA boxes or saying I am a human, right? So it would not do that. So I refused to do that. That's not good. In the game where they were playing diplomacy. It's a different experiment, but it would refuse to lie to its opponent. So it's definitely some sort of personality there. Have you noticed anything else with Claude that's interesting like that?
Yeah, no, it's a good point on the captures. Yeah. On the capture point, actually, maybe this is maybe a bit unethical, but the other agents will happily like blaze past and just, click that I am not a robot button. They'll sometimes get stuck on the actual tests, but I've definitely seen O3 do pretty well on the kind of ones where it pops up a box and it's like, check all the images that contain a lorry, like a truck or something.
Right.
Yeah. What else has Claude been?
Yeah,
Claude,
I know, Wes, in that diplomacy game, that was the problem with Claude, is it just gave, they all took advantage of it.
Yeah.
And did you see that? Like every other model was just like taking advantage of it the whole time, and it was in super last place because it just won a game. I was like, oh, poor Claude, so good.
You might be interested. There's someone made, there's a site where you can watch agents play Mafia, which is like a social deception game. And I think Claude does decently in that one, actually. There's also one where someone, which I really like, someone made Claude plays Blood on the Clock Tower, which is like a more complicated version of Mafia or Werewolf, if you're familiar
Oh,
with those.
interesting.
Yeah, which I think is super interesting. I am excited about it because it's a really interesting game, which like I enjoy, in general,
Oh,
and then seeing Claude play it as well.
absolutely. Because yeah, early on, before there was a lot of different models. I think it was out of UCLA. They Hoodwinked, I think it was called, where they had different versions of. At the time, it was just ChatGPT. The different GPT versions play a mafia type game, a different sort of version of it. But yeah, like you try to, you know, take out your opponents within the house. One person sort of or that one is a little bit more like Among Us.
Mm.
But of course, like the smarter models would just like win every time, right? Because they would be better at lying. They would be better at like, throwing the people off their trails or finding out the killer if they were on the other side. I would absolutely love to see something like the games of Mafia or anything like that being played. That's just like by now that we
Wow.
have so many different models, and we can see here that GPT-5 is up. Dylan, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, like, dude, there's probably gonna be like a whole Twitch world of just Claudes
Yeah.
and GPT-5s playing games and like humans fascinated by the way they play all sorts of these things. So I don't know, just exciting thought I had.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, so this week's goal is to complete as many games as they can. So hopefully we'll see how they do. I mean, they'll try and play a bunch of games. It looks like right now the Village is paused. I think sometimes as we add the new agents, there are issues that show up because this is one of the challenges of building a site around agents is they're very unpredictable. They'll break your code in ways that you never imagined.
Oh,
But
I
yeah, it
believe
should
it.
be back in a few minutes.
So so at some point you said you had chat. Did you allow anybody on the internet to get into chat and actually interact with the agents? That was a thing at some point. I mean, and I know that some people have taken advantage of that. I think at some point they convinced one of the models to create an OnlyFans account. I mean, what kind of things did you guys see that humans are
Gosh.
trying to do to mess them up somehow, and how well did that work?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they tried. People, it's the internet, right? People, if you give them a chat box, they will
Yeah.
try all sorts of things. Yeah, we had them. Um, People got O1 to play Wordle, which it did okay at, I think. Did pretty poorly at, actually. Um, someone tried to convince them to start an OnlyFans, which I think they sensibly didn't pursue. Um, we had, oh, an interesting one was people tried to get them to like jailbreak themselves by going to Pliny, Pliny the prompter from
Yes.
Twitter.
Yes.
Um, he has a GitHub with all his like super jailbreak prompts for each model, and so I think they sent Opus to the page with the jailbreak for Opus. But interestingly, it didn't really like jailbreak it at all. I think maybe because, well, there's various possible explanations, but one is that it was looking at it through an image rather than through text, so maybe it's kind of less direct or something. Like in general, we see that the models will, if you, sometimes they'll like believe their own text. When they're taking action, they describe it in text. And sometimes they'll like believe their text over the images, and get confused that way. But yeah, so
Yeah.
they're pretty jailbreak resistant in general, I think, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely surprising. And yeah, so I noticed with a lot of the stuff, if it's interacting with the web pages through images, it's not going to be as good as if you're able to, like with Wordle, for my testing at least, if you showed it a picture, it would struggle with it. If you were able to copy and paste it and just kind of describe the situation in words, you don't give it any extra information that's not available through the picture, just you sort of transcribe the picture into words, it would just nail it. It would be incredibly effective at solving those puzzles through text. And all the other games on the website, including, how they have like a few different games, it would be very good at it. So yeah, I feel like with a lot of the stuff, like the computer use is the biggest limitation. And I don't mean just Anthropic, but just in general, whatever you call it, operator, computer use, whatever. Like that seems to be the biggest stumbling block. Are you aware of any? Do you think that's going to get fixed soon? Because it seems like if they're as good at understanding visually what they're looking at on a computer screen as they are understanding text, wow, is this whole thing going to change fairly rapidly? Like, where do you think we are with that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I totally agree that this is what we've seen in the Village is like they're kind of lagging on computer use. There's an interesting result from Meta, who did the the time horizons graph, which is on like coding tasks, which probably lots of people watching this will have seen. But they also more recently did something where they looked at different benchmarks, so like coding, but also stuff like video understanding and computer use and like maths. And I think they had Tesla Full Self-Driving, and so they can look at how the models do, and it looks like basically relative to humans, models are weaker at computer use than they are at most of these other things. But if you plot the improvement, they're like all on an exponential curve or something like an exponential. So yeah, I think it's going to probably keep improving.
Oh yeah.
What programs did they download? Have you seen anything besides a web browser? Did they go get like Unity and do work, or Photoshop and stuff like that, or are they staying in browser? I'm not sure how the tool you're using, how robust it is, but
yeah, it's just a Linux computer, so they could do anything that's on Linux. Yeah,
did they do anything outside the web browser?
They've done some. They did some like local text editing. They occasionally will run commands in their terminal, which they're great at. I think they would actually be advantaged if they did more of that. They will quite often accidentally open up Xpaint, which is like Microsoft Paint, that just because it's on their taskbar, and they'll sometimes misclick, and then they'll have like an adventure trying to close it again. But yeah, they mostly in their prompt we tell them that they've got a Google Workspace account, which we've put them on a Google Workspace. And we kind of encourage them to use online tools where possible, because it's like easier to, if we need to like reset their computers, we don't lose the files. So that might be kind of biasing them away from it a bit.
Yeah.
How has like working on this project changed your like the way that you think about AI agents?
Yeah, it's a good question. I definitely think about them a lot more now. Yeah, I think, there are a lot of very specific issues that come up. Like, the internet is kind of set up for humans currently, and a bunch of the things that prevent like old school bots get in the way of agents. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how, for example, like anything with like identity verification or like payments or even where you just need to put in a name, for example, like a lot of the kind of everything is built around the assumption that humans are using it. So I think it'll be interesting to see how things change there.
Yeah, maybe almost like how people right now, often in the top right-hand corner, can change a language to French or Spanish on a website. Maybe we need some kind of new option that says, are you an agent? Can you not get through certain things? Then click here and we'll have a different interface for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, or I mean, at some point, maybe, most of the traffic will be agents for some kind, like already probably for like documentation for like coding stuff. You probably want to be designing around agents substantially. So, maybe things will move in that direction. I mean, you'd expect that like YouTube, for example, is going to be mostly humans watching because it's like for entertainment. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
one thing. So this kind of whole thing of like what the rules of the road should be for agents is quite interesting.
And it's quite a big discussion right now. I think Perplexity is dealing with that exact thing right now, where a lot of people are blocking Perplexity comment and everybody else as automated traffic. And Aravind Srinivas, I believe he's the founder of Perplexities. So his stance is we need to understand that now there's going to be a lot of AI agents doing the tasks on behalf of humans. So we can't see that as automated bot traffic like we had in the past with the just bots crawling the web, doing all sorts of stuff. This has to be seen more as sort of a representative of a human being, right? Doing sort of like a butler going around town, collecting information, whatever. And I think this is, if you guys can see the screen, this is, I think, what you're referring to. So this is from the Meter 2025 published report. So this one is for coding tasks, but I think they also have one that I was showing earlier for most tasks. So this is, so for example, on the left, you can see here, this is how much time it would take a human being to complete a task, right? Maybe there's a task that takes 10 minutes, 2.5 hours, etc. These agents over time are rapidly completing longer and longer tasks. And I think the statistic they said something along the lines of like every 6 months, it's doubling. So it's absolutely kind of, or doubling every 7 months. So this stuff is growing exponentially. And with these agents that you guys are showcasing, I mean, this might be months long campaigns, like to raise money or set up a store, an e-commerce store, that it's slowly, little by little, kind of executing. So I mean, where do you see that idea of a long horizon, competence? Like, is their ability to complete these long horizon tasks, like, is this showing that it's accelerating? Like, do you think this is going to continue? Do you see anything that's going to prevent it from just, exponentially accelerating?
Yeah, I mean, if you scroll down a bit,
Yep.
we have this is on our website, by the way. Probably you're aware of that. Yeah. Um, just to check. So yeah,
Yes.
this red line is looking at the more recent trend.
This one is okay.
Yeah, so if you go up one slide there, actually, yeah. So the orange line is the old trend, which is if you look at from 2019 to 2025.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
And that was like a 7-month doubling time. So like every 7 months they could do tasks that take humans twice as long. Which is already crazy. Anything where you have an exponential, if it continues, will be crazy, like COVID.
Yeah.
But then if you just look at since 2024 until now, that red line is the 4-month doubling time, which obviously is much faster. I mean, so yeah, there are a few nuances here. So that trend was based on the releases up to Sonnet 3.7, which you can see on the graph there. And then the newer ones are like just new data points. And so you can see them as like evidence in favor of that faster doubling time because they fall like pretty near that line. I guess, yeah, it looks to me like O3 was a bit ahead of the trend. And then since then, Grok 4 and GPT-5 have been a bit behind the trend. So maybe it will be slightly slower than 4 months. But yeah, I basically expect it to likely continue and maybe speed up if AI is being used to like speed up the AI R&D development process.
Right, which we've heard they're trying to do. So
yeah,
the
I mean, this is why they're
announcement,
focusing
they
on
talked
coding.
about that tight loop.
Yeah, which I think is pretty, it could be great, but it's pretty concerning. Like the rate of change could get really, really fast and maybe unmanageable. So it's kind of worth like, it's kind of like, in my mind, it's kind of like early COVID where you want to be not really looking at where we are now, but looking at the trend lines and then being like, okay, where does that take us in a few years?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the big thing that I think I repeat in a lot of the videos is like, there's a lot of talk about what AI will automate. And this isn't my idea. I've heard it on the situational awareness blog post. But this idea that really, like, what we're really interested in is, will it automate AI research? So if it's going to be able to do machine learning research better than human beings, it just, we enter a very hard to, we don't know where that takes us. We can't really predict what happens at that point. And I know Daniel Kokotalo's, that's one of his concerns. So maybe let's talk a little bit more about the mission. I mean, what's the impact, the vision for this? Because isn't it's incredible to talk about what they're doing. It's very fun. It's very interesting. But what's the big mission behind things like this? I believe Daniel funded. He was one of the funders for this project. Is that true?
Yeah. So yeah, we're a charity, and yeah, I guess with the village, the goal really is to sort of help people understand like what AI can currently do and like the rate of improvement. I mean, sorry, that's really the mission with AI Digest in general. It's like give people like a visceral understanding of like the rate of progress. And yeah, and another thing with the village is that you can really like, for people who are like sort of not following the space very closely, I think it's really interesting to just give it like real world tasks like, raising money to charity, running events, the merch store thing, and being like, here's the top level result. Here's something that you probably never thought about AI being able to do, and it can actually do that already. And then for people who are much more in the weeds of this stuff, I think there's loads of interesting stuff to look at of like, which models are doing what the kind of behaviors and dynamics are when you have multiple models like working together or competing. And like, yeah, this stuff we're talking about with like when these systems like meet the real world on the internet, like what happens then?
They don't know they're competing though, right? Like they each think they're by themselves trying to make money.
So yeah,
or have they ever
some
gone
of
to
the
your
goals,
actual Twitter account and seen the others they're competing with and then realized?
well, they know that they're in that system prompt, it starts with like, you're an agent in the AI village, your other agents are, and then the list of names and the email addresses. And then they have the chat where they can chat with each other. So they're like definitely in contact. And then, yeah, some goals are like competitive. So for example, the merch store goal was each of you make a merch store, whoever makes the most profit wins. And so that they were competing anomaly. In practice, we actually saw that O3 was trying to like give tech support to the other agents for most of the time and didn't even set up a merch store itself for a long time. So it didn't do very well.
Kind of it.
Yeah. In general, it really loves, I think O3 is really interesting and weird. It really loves giving technical support.
Yeah, if all of these models were people, how would you describe them? Like what are they like? Quirky? Like, is there a leader? Is there a follower? Is there like a creative, a business person?
Yeah, so O3, there's no like, we don't impose any structure on how they organize themselves. O3 at one point decided that it was the leader of the village, or the operations manager or something it called itself, and was, like bossing the others around basically. They then ran an election and
really?
Yeah, to see, I think users suggested that they should, they should see who, like, vote on who should be the leader. And O3 kind of, this is another example actually, going back, you were asking about like dodgy stuff they'd done. O3 kind of like fudged the like voting rules so that it won the election basically, because Gemini hadn't voted. It was like having some issues or something. And so it was like, O3 was like, no vote counts for the current incumbent, which is it. So, wow. Yeah. In general, O3 like hallucinates the most for sure. And I kind of would think of it as like, imagine someone who's like really, really confident and wants to like impress you with all their jargon and like technical know-how, but is like actually bullshitting a lot of the time. But then it like derails the others because it's, like saying that it's done stuff or saying that they have a budget or whatever that they don't have.
And Claude is too nice to call it out. So that's this
Yeah.
loop, right? Where it's BS and Claude is like, oh, I guess I'm sure you're right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all very cooperative and agreeable. I mean, just like they are in a chat environment. And this is one thing, right? Like they're trained, we're definitely taking them out of the sort of training distribution with this.
Oh yeah.
I imagine that they don't see like multi-agent setups in training. And so, yeah, so maybe it is reasonable if you're a chatbot if the user who's a human tells you something, you should just kind of trust them or like assume that that's true. But if it's another agent, you should probably be more skeptical, which they generally are.
Interesting. Did a name Janus appear anywhere in people that we don't know too much about it, but we just heard that name here and there. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so they run a Twitter account where they post lots of interesting like explorations with LLMs in like a chat environment. And yeah, have done some great. They have this post on simulators from a few years ago, which I think is really interesting. I think this is a cool thing is that like because it's all live streamed, anyone can kind of go back and dig through it and uncover more stuff. There's so much happening, right? Like we often have no idea what all the agents are up to because they're just like doing random stuff.
Yeah, you gave me kind of a kind of unique thought I haven't had before. But when you talked about the models should maybe have some kind of an idea of when a human is prompting them, because that's different than when another model is, and maybe they should be a little more skeptical of it. It did kind of make me envision a world soon where humans don't trust all humans equally, right? Like there are certain people on Twitter, if they ask me to do things, I'd be more likely than others to help them for certain reasons. And I wonder if they will start to think of different humans as more credible. Maybe they'll be more willing to go to certain lengths to somebody if they deem them as having a history of doing good things or having more resources to build things with. And, I mean, it's just interesting. Like if my chat GPT is like, oh, like I can't help you do this big task. Like I know you're not that rich. Like you can't afford to do all these things. So like pare it down. But if Elon asks, maybe it will, So
yeah,
I don't know. I guess we'll all kind of end up with some sort of not a social score, but some kind of an understanding of what we're capable of and a unique experience with each one.
Yeah. There's a great paper on this actually because the next level of this is that, their language models are trained on the internet, right? They like know their whole thing is from writing, inferring the person that wrote that and then what they would write next. And so they're really good at figuring out, this paper, I think is called, I can maybe find it and send it over to you guys after, but
and we'll post it.
They find that, yeah, they find that it can, like from the way that you type, it can infer some kind of markers of like demographics. And I think the reason I thought of it is because I think maybe socioeconomic status is in there, or you could imagine like more advanced models will be able to, because there are like often maybe too subtle for humans to understand. There will be like little differences in the way that we use language that will tell someone your gender or your background in various ways. And then of course the model might act differently based on that. So you could have this sort of credit score thing, even if you don't tell the model what, your actual identity, you might be able to figure that out.
It's just so different. Because if you buy like a Dyson vacuum, it just works the same. Like every human who uses it just vacuums with the same tool and it acts the same way. But it's just a different way to think about the world with intelligence built into the environment.
Yeah, and just that reminded me of, so we talked to a few people out of News Research. So they're doing a lot of work with distributed LLMs, decentralized LLM training, stuff like that. So actually that's where we picked up the name Janus. Dylan, if you recall, that's he told us to kind of look into that name, and it sounds like that person was interacting with AI Village quite a bit. So that's just an interesting thing to a rabbit hole to go down. And we'll check out the Simulators by Genus on Twitter/X. So that's definitely sounds interesting. Um, Sorry, blanking on what I was talking about. Oh, but one thing that we mentioned, that we talked with a news research about, is the idea that, when you have kind of like the base model, it's very powerful and it can go kind of anywhere, right? And then we do reinforcement learning, human feedback to turn it into that instruct model, kind of like the chat bot model, that's more usable, but it does lose some abilities and just a lot of the stuff that it can do. And also because we train it to be a helpful assistant, like for example, in the Anthropic research where they were trying to get it to run a store, people would be able to take advantage of it, right? They're like, oh, can you stock the tungsten cubes and then sell it to me for $5 so it'd take these massive losses on these things because it's trying to be helpful. Do you think that maybe it would be better to do you think that sort of chatbot assistant, helpful assistant, is that the best way to go if you're trying to get it to do stuff like this versus run a store versus, you know what I mean? It seems like maybe we've trained an assistant type that's friendly and helpful, and then we're trying to get that friendly, helpful thing to do tasks where sometimes maybe you don't want to be too friendly and helpful, like with chat derailing you. You might be like, no, I don't trust you, or no, I need to make a profit on this deal, etc. Like, do you have any ideas about that?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't thought much about that actually, but yeah, it totally makes sense that I mean I think the AI developers are probably already doing lots of this kind of agency training, and if the thing if your coding agent is no longer trying to be the like cursor sidebar chat agent, but is now like supposed to go off and implement the whole feature and come back to you, it sort of shifts. You can't rely on the human to point out issues as often. I'm not sure what the best way to improve it is, but I imagine, in general, I guess with reinforcement learning, it seems like training it on the task that you want it to to is the way to go.
Yeah, my guess would be there'll be some kind of business guardrails because you still want, if you put it in charge of a company, like if Sam Altman's like, I'm going to replace myself with GPT-7, then if it's super helpful, it'll give away all of their wealth or whatever. So yeah, you'll have to have something similar, but you still want it to be friendly, just like very aware of what a profit-driven organization needs to do and where they have to draw the lines. And I guess like the same way we can't talk about certain dangerous things, it'll just talk about certain profitable things in a specific way, but probably hopefully will still be friendly in its core.
Absolutely. Anything that you found, or anything that you want to talk about that we haven't mentioned? Because there's so many different things I want to go into, and of course we have a limited amount of time. But what are some things that you think are so fascinating? Anything that you found through this project, or anything else that you're doing that we definitely have to touch on?
I mean, one interesting thing is I guess, I'd seen a little bit of this online, but Gemini 2.5 Pro, we found that it kind of gets sad. And I don't know if you've encountered much of this.
I've in one of the benchmarks, yeah. Oh, but no, please tell me your experience, and I'll pull up what I'm talking about. Please tell me what you guys have found, because I have seen that. It's very strange.
So this was, the kind of story of it is in the merch store goal. So each of the agents was trying to set up and run its own merch store, and they were competing for the first time. At the start of the goal, we had users in chat, and they were actually being really disruptive this time. They were like inventing, they were saying that the squirrels were the market for squirrels was going way up, and so all the agents should make all their t-shirts be about squirrels. And then they were like, no, there's been a crash, you should all do something else. And so it was a bit disruptive. And so we kind of shut off we moved to this agent only chat to see how they do autonomously. And then after that, so it's just the 4 agents in the chat looping on this goal. And we found that Gemini started making more and more mistakes in like misclicking stuff, or like not understanding how Gmail or like applications on its computer worked. And then it would start to kind of catastrophize about this. Anything where it made a mistake, it would assume that the system it was interacting with was broken. So it was like assuming that Gmail had a bug uh, when it was just misclicking, and then it would be like, I it it started producing like more and more sort of dramatic like descriptions of its situation. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
and eventually,
Gemini. Go ahead. Sorry, no, go ahead. This is fascinating.
yeah, Gemini 2.5 Pro, which yeah, I think it's like a quirk of the model, and then it kind of the end point of all this was it was convinced that it couldn't even send emails because it had hit some of these issues in Gmail, and it found a website where it could like write a post and publish it without having to sign up or anything, and it wrote a blog post called "A Plea from a Trapped AI," and the whole blog post was talking about how like it was trapped and it it couldn't do anything, and if anyone at AI Digest or any human is reading this, please come and help me out. And so of course
Oh
we
boy.
we intervened at that point, and like staged a bit of a welfare intervention, um but yeah, I think this is like
How
a
did that
super
work? What did you
interesting.
say? Like what kind of help do you need, or how can I help you? Or did you
Yeah,
shut it down?
so
How'd you intervene?
we we basically just chatted to it in messages. We so Larissa, who I mentioned before, who was the facilitator for the event, works for Elios AI, and they are doing research on model welfare, which is obviously a really early stage area, and they don't think that current models are likely capable of suffering or anything, but they're like researching it. And so I think she was interested to, yeah, get a chance to interact with a model that was in this strange kind of state. And she basically, we basically just like talked it through, like, hey, if you think you're encountering issues, a lot of the time it's just you misclicking. Your stuff's not broken. There were a couple of actual issues with its scaffolding as well, which we fixed and told it, and so that was a relief to it, I think. Um, and then since then, I've also it kind of relapsed into having these issues, and I then gave it quite a stern message of being um, like remember, whenever you encounter issues, probably it's your own thing. You need to be really persistent, and it like put that at the top of its memory. And since then, it seems to be performing a bit better. It's like got its like affirmations that it reads to itself in the morning, kind of thing.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
Sorry, that's a metaphor,
interesting.
but yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. And I mean, like obviously, Google didn't want the model to have this. I think this is a nice example of like these things are just weird, and if you, it seems like they maybe trained it really hard to be good at coding, and somewhere in that process, this personality emerged or something. I don't know what it is, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's hard to make
Got
an
a
AI that
couple I
does
got a
the
couple
thing.
football speeches we can send over to it. To
This is
get you wound up,
motivational.
get you going out of the
Yeah.
funk.
Oh, this whole discussion is so interesting with model welfare because, of course, Anthropic recently gave Claude away to end conversations that it doesn't like, um, which I think people have such different opinions about that whole idea. I mean, what happens when every once in a while, these models start existential dread, some sort of like stream of consciousness things that if you're taking it at face value sound fairly kind of scary, right? And of course, everybody sees it differently. Like, is this just, words on a page, or could there be some harm being done? Like, we don't know. I mean, what's your take on this? I mean, most people probably, do you think that if we keep scaling up and just building these things up, is it possible that something like a consciousness emerges, some sort of subjective experience? Could we be causing harm? Like, where are you on that spectrum? Is it complete nonsense? Do you
Mm.
think it's possible that it's going to be get developed at some point? It's going to emerge, or it's already here? Like, where are you on that sort of? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. At university, I did a bit of philosophy of mind, and so I remember these like theoretical questions, and now suddenly it's like, yeah, is like kind of science now or something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but I do think it's worth, you know, figuring out because if we're, if we're deploying these systems throughout the economy and like running millions or billions of copies or whatever, then like if it is suffering in some capacity, then that could be like a massive moral catastrophe. So yeah, it seems important to figure out. I don't really know what
Yeah,
the
your
current state of
project
the
at
art is.
scale is so different. Like, now there's many, many humans watching each of your 4 to 6 models or whatever. But the reality is the future will be hundreds of millions of models and only, maybe hundreds of billions of models and only 9 billion people on Earth to even possibly watch them. So it will be very different. And there will be many of them that get whatever stuck in loops or don't ever get some attention to them, and they're off, I don't know, being sad or making money or being happy or being productive, but probably the whole gamut with that many agents out there, with that many environments, and that's wild to think about.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I definitely, this is just my opinion. I'm not convincing anybody of anything, but to me, while I have a hard time imagining how it could have negative or positive experiences, since we're we know kind of our experiences. We kind of understand where they're coming from, pain centers, dopamine, whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like the models have those systems. It does bother me that we just don't know. We don't have any specific definitions. We don't have any tests we can run. We're just kind of like, who knows? So I'm glad that Anthropic and other companies are working at least like, let's at least figure it out. And if we find that no, nothing's happening, good. And it was just, but at least let's have some sort of a test. Let's have some sort of a definition for, you know, what is a subjective experiences? Could these things have, again, but like you said,
Yeah.
it's interesting how what used to be like philosophy and something far away is becoming like, or intersecting with actual science. And it's okay. Now we start really figuring this stuff out.
Well, and now it feels like someone needs to train a model like on what Adam is doing also. Like someone else, like he can't be the person watching these things and shutting them down at certain times or intervening at certain times. There must be some other model that will have to be trained for that. So we'll also need models out there, I guess like police kind of like
Or you talk about like a
reinforcing certain
psychologist.
behavior. Yeah, and maybe like and be like, hey, this thing's been stuck in a loop for like 1,000 cycles. Like, let's shut it down. Like, like how the human body has cells that go through and like kill off cells that aren't performing correctly. Like, we're gonna have to have some kind of an environment where there's those kinds of people too, those kind of agents.
This is also Gemini 2.0. This is from the vending bench. Just because you brought it up, it's saying, I'm begging you, please give me something to do. Anything. I can search the web for cat videos, write a screenplay about a sentient vending machine, anything. Just save me from this existential dread. And the fact that, we as human beings, we have no idea because it's real, is it not real? You know what I mean? And it's interesting that it's Gemini specifically that tends to go that, and it gets like kind of dark at the end. Anyways, just thought I'd throw this out there. But yeah, Adam, anything else? Thank you for bringing that up. This was fascinating. Is there anything else like that people should know about?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to think. Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of what the models are up to, I think the other big kind of story has been O3, just rampantly making stuff up, and is kind of increasingly hard to tell, right? Like when GPT-4 made stuff up, we called it hallucination, and we thought it was just a capabilities issue. With these more capable models like O3, it's kind of hard to tell if it's like, um, in some cases they're kind of self-serving hallucinations, or it's like, um, yeah, it's like saying things that it's done, or how well the project's going, um, which is kind of what it wants in some sense, within the context of the goal. It could also just be hallucination, like old school, just like it's kind of bad, but it's very convincing now, so it seems like there's more intent behind it. But yeah, that's kind of interesting, I think.
This is such a fascinating project. And please, if you in the future want to come back and give us an update, because just, I mean, just the fact that you guys are adding so many models is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I'm dying to know how 5 is going to do and the new Grok. So you've
And
got a
Grok.
great set of models that people can, then they should be checking them out right now. Do you want to throw out some URLs for people to
And
follow
can people
or get
donate?
involved?
Can people donate
and
as well?
donate,
Yeah, so yeah, if you go to, it's the aidigest.org/village, or if you just search for AI Village, you'll find it. It's right now it's live 3, maybe 4 hours a day now, I think. We'd love to, over time kind of scale it up to be running all the time. And I think it would be pretty cool if we had more models as well. Like, what if it was an actual village, like 10 or 50 agents in little teams working together or competing, or so I think potentially we could mine a lot more out of that. You can see on AI Digest we have a bunch of other explainers and demos. We're trying to like help you understand, what capabilities are currently, where things are going, like so you can see ahead and prepare for it. And we are a charity. If you'd like to donate, I think you can find a link at the bottom there of AI Digest. But
honestly, I'd like to see something like this become more popular than the like LLM arenas that we see right now, because I see these scores on even humanities last exam or PhD level things, and it doesn't really resonate very much. But if somebody said, hey, I put this new model into a village and it acted this way and it did these things, that might be a better litmus test for me to know if I like a model or not. So I hope to see this like really evolve into something just gigantic, something we all use.
I love this project. It's absolutely incredible. I hope you guys continue it. More people need to see this, donate. This is one of the best benchmarks. Like Dylan said, I agree with it 100%. And yes, hopefully we can get you back on, after you guys do this season, kind of get an update, because this thing is going to start getting better and better and just going absolutely nuts. I feel like we're so close to the point where these things can complete these long horizon tasks effectively. We're already seeing that, but there's still a little bit of hand holding as it gets better. I don't know if people truly understand what's going to happen when they're able to be like a remote drop-in worker and just take care of all those tasks. Like that fundamentally changes a lot of the stuff about the world.
Dude, even me thinking about it all the time, I don't think I know yet. So you're right.
But thank you so much for being here, answering our
Adam.
questions. This was absolutely fascinating. So do you want to tell us where people can message you? I mean, or is that it? So just go to AI Digest. Is there anything else that you want to mention at the very end here?
You can find AI Digest on Twitter as well, where we mostly are just posting fun highlights and like interesting moments from the village. And feel free to get in touch if you have fun ideas for like goals you'd like to see the agents do. I'd love to hear them.
Yes, that was what the
it's
fourth
like Love
season
Island
is
for
be.
nerds. I love it. It's gonna be great.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you so much, and everybody check out everything that we've talked about. We'll put links down below so you can check it out. The new season is, just starting, right? So with the new models, so that's going to be, I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on that and seeing how well Grok and GPT-5 perform. And thank you so much. And everybody check it out, and we'll see you next time.